Sup guys, Ian Walker, Stuff Podcast Show. Getting some more stuff ready here for my shows for the next couple of weeks. I've been reading up on a lot of stuff, a lot of information on content. Uh, I've really been absorbing and listening to Gary V and his content and what he has to say in regards to creating content and things that people like to listen to, like to see, and what kind of stuff that I could create. His biggest mantra is to document, not create, and so that's kind of what I'm doing because I find that it is easier for me to just document some things. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So one of the things I do want to I just wanted to document how I go about creating a podcast episode for those of you who might be interested in creating a podcast or just curious in general about how I do it and why I do what I do and what goes into that process and things of that nature. So there's a lot of brainstorming of ideas that I come up with too. I talk about my segments, you know, generally now my shows are about an hour long. I'm giving myself the creative license to not be so strict with the hour. Sometimes I could go over, sometimes I could be a little bit under by a few minutes. And I'm just going to start going with the fact that, you know what, that's okay. It's all right. Because whatever, it's all right. And whatever happens, happens. Hopefully, it'll come out and create some good and cool quality content for everybody that decides to absorb it. I got a lot of new ideas. I'm always coming up with ideas for stuff that I want to do. It's just, it does get a little ridiculous, but I guess that's part of the idea machine, right? Um, One of the things I do want to do in concerns with content and things of that nature, I want to ask less, give more. So I don't want to give value in some form or fashion. This show is generally just me just talking about a lot of things that matter to people. Whether it be pop culture, whether it be about personal life issues, kind of mixing the two, but still kind of keeping it fun. The biggest theme and focus being that it is a family podcast. So that is the niche I would say that I am really going for. A lot of the podcasts that are out now are, very adult oriented, and that's fine. I would say my podcast is kind of adult oriented in some ways. A lot of the subject matter is very adult, but I want to make sure that I'm talking about things that kids can hear and listen to, kids, teenagers, whoever it is, however old you are, that they can listen to, kind of take away from it and have an understanding. I mean, they might not get it 100%, but at least have an understanding of what these things are. I get a little crazy sometimes. Some of my guests may come on and be a little crazy. I always still try to keep it discreet, keep it cool. Don't get too crazy. And that's just me. That's just my personal formula, because I want this to get into as many ears as possible. I want this podcast to be listened to by as many people as possible and enjoyed by them. So that's what I do. So I'll have my segments. Some of the things, though, that getting back to what I was initially going to say, some of the things I want to do to kind of give back would be more shout outs. Shout outs to fans that listen to the podcast, that enjoy it, and those who contribute as well. Those who kind of lend something to the community that I'm trying to build and create for the podcast. So I'm gonna have shout outs to the fans, and also since I also myself listen to podcasts, not only just for the sake of listening, but it also helps me come up with content and ideas and things that I think are important to talk about, things that should be said and be spoken of. So I want to make sure that I shout them out too, because honestly, without other podcasters, other content creators, wouldn't have that much to talk about. I think, or not that much to talk about, but I wouldn't have a baseline of how to go about perfecting my craft and getting better at it and doing what I do as a podcast host. And it's funny, podcasting is something that I've just grown to love immensely, completely by accident. Those of you who don't know me, I've always kind of had this background desire, this hidden desire to do radio. Uh, I've been told I had the voice for it. Not because my face is ugly, because I'm fine. But but because, I have a decent sounding voice to some people. So I'm like, okay. And I have actually been told by a radio DJ that I would be great for it. So based on that, I kind of just was like, you know what? I'm just go for it and create my own stuff. And podcasting was that way. So but listening to other podcasters, seeing how they go about their shows and how they put them together, the subject matter they speak on, what those things are about, kind of helps me kind of get better with my craft and with what I do. So I figure, you know, let me go ahead and shout out those podcasters who are helping me out in their own ways without really knowing it, by giving them a shout on my page. I'm not huge and popular yet. I'm not, it's funny. I'm not looking for fame because it's funny. I actually react weirdly to people who recognize me if they do. I have a story about that. Maybe I'll talk about that on a podcast one day. But yeah, so getting huge amounts of attention. You would think I'd be all about attention, but I'm really not. Don't look at me. You know, um, when I see you, I would rather have a person to person interaction. I have no problem talking to people. I just like person to person interactions that are just normal human conversations, not predicated or based on the fact that, oh, you're famous, or I know you, so through some other medium, in a weird different space. I don't want to have. I feel awkward having conversations based on that premise or that catalyst. You know, I'd rather just say, hey, I'm Ian. Nice to meet you. Or oh man, you like Power Rangers too? I do too, because blah 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 blah. Or talk about comics or pop culture. Life has happened and this or do do do. Natural, flowing, organic conversations. That's what I like more. And I'll be more happy to talk to you. But if you come to me, oh my God, you're here for this stuff. I listen to your podcast all the time. You're the guy who says, it's like, oh, thank you. Ooh, ooh. So that's a tip. If if you are a listener of my podcast and you see me out public, don't hesitate to say hi, because I'm a very nice dude. I don't bite. I would love people to say hi. Just don't try your best if you are like a legit fan. Try not to fanboy or fangirl too hard, because that gets a lot, you know. I mean, I appreciate it. It's cool because that means people are listening to your stuff and they appreciate it and they like it, and that's always a great feeling. I mean, it is reaffirming that you're not just doing stuff for nothing, so that's cool. But the weird reactions when they meet you is just kind of like, for me, it's just like I don't know it. You know. So, anyways, I just went off on another tangent talking about other random stuff. But anyways, I'm gonna go through this whole process. So you guys will, IGTV is gonna be a lot about that stuff. I'm still working on kinks on how I'm going to do the D's palette stuff, and again, the process of going how I'm gonna do that's gonna change too, because I was gonna go more uniform, try to be like a TV show sort of, but again, based on what I've been learning about content and what it is, and I'm all about trying to be as real and as authentic as possible. I think I'm a backslide on that whole TV show concept and kind of just go back to being real. Just taking a video shot of me going to a pizza joint or something like that and just enjoying the place. And whatever happens, happens. I think that's the best way, the most realist expression of 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 how I'm gonna be producing content. So get ready to see a lot more from you guys. Get ready to see just content on a massive level. I hope so. Anyways, thank you guys for just listening to hear me rant for a little bit. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode here on IGTV. I will be posting this up to YouTube. If you are listening on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell too, because apparently on YouTube you got to hit a bell now in order to get on my videos. So that's a little garbage, but is what it is. And if you're like me on Instagram, the Stuff Podcast Show, and also Twitter. I'm starting to learn Twitter more. I think as a podcaster, it's a little bit easier for me to do Twitter now because I'm starting to kind of understand it. So the Stuff IDW is my handle on Twitter. So, anyways, thanks a lot for hanging out. Get ready for most stuff, guys, because it's about to be a revolution. Jesus.